Most of us have heard about the power of morning routines, yet most of us either don't have a morning routine or we don't have one that we follow consistently. Why is that, and what can we do about it? That's exactly what we're going to talk about in today's video, and I'm going to also be sharing with you my 4-step morning routine that I've personally developed that I found works for me after years of trying a bunch of different things. These are the things that I have chosen that I know work really well for me. Also, at the end, I'll be sharing 2 bonus tips that will help you actually stick to your morning routine so you can not just create one, but actually stick to one consistently over time. So first, why do morning routines even matter? First, a morning routine sets the tone for the day and encourages healthy habits, or at least it encourages healthy habits if your morning routine is a healthy one. So if your alarm goes off and you hit snooze 3 times and then you look at the clock and now you're late and now you're scrambling and now you're chugging your coffee and running out the door. Now you're a little bit late to work, maybe. Now you're starting the day not just behind, but with a lack of self-confidence because the first hour was just so chaotic. You didn't do any of the things that you said you were going to do. By contrast, if you wake up when you say you're going to wake up and you do the things that you say you're going to do in your morning, then you eventually end up leaving out the door on time, not scrambling with a cup of coffee, falling all over the place, and you get to work, or you start work at a reasonable time. Maybe you start ahead of everybody else. Maybe you get some time in before everybody else gets in, and that makes you feel good. And so now for the rest of the day, you're just set for success instead of being set up for failure. Reason number 2 is that morning routines create order and reduce anxiety. You can think of morning routines as kind of a pre-game ritual. When you look at athletes, a lot of them have very stringent and sometimes very weird pre-game rituals. Researchers have studied this and they found that these pre-game rituals actually help reduce anxiety, and that the way that they help reduce anxiety is by creating a certain kind of order and predictability. So if before the game you're doing everything that you always do before the game, it gives you a sense of consistency and order so that when you step into the game, you're just kind of running on autopilot and you're not thinking, oh my God, what am I going to expect? What am I not going to face? What am I going to face? You go into the game with a certain sense of confidence and a certain sense of certainty. Even though the pregame ritual isn't actually going to help you predict the future, the pregame ritual puts your brain in a state of certainty and a state of predictability, and it helps it perform better and it reduces your levels of anxiety. Morning routines work the exact same way. If you have a morning routine that you follow consistently, religiously, then you feel like you know what to expect for the rest of the day, and you feel way better prepared to tackle anything that might come up. Reason number 3, morning routines cultivate discipline and improve self-confidence. Self-confidence is just a fancy word for self-trust. If you were going to sit in a chair and you expect the chair to not fall apart, you expect to be able to sit on the chair without the legs breaking, but then you sit on the chair and it doesn't do what you expected it to do, you don't trust that chair. Similarly, when you say you're going to do something and you expect that you're going to do something and then you don't do it, your trust in yourself becomes lowered. Self-trust is just another word for self-confidence. And so when you have a morning routine and you actually stick to it, it increases your level. First of all, you're exercising discipline, which is a really good muscle to exercise. And number 2, you're increasing your level of self-confidence, self-trust, and self-esteem. And if that's how you're starting off your day, that is a really good piece of momentum that you can use to build for the rest of the day. Number 4, a morning routine helps you get more out of your day. When you don't have a consistent thing that you do in the morning, when you set an alarm for a certain time and you snooze for 45 more minutes, and you say you're going to get out of the house at a certain time, but you don't get out of the house until way later, or you say you're going to do things, you say you're going to exercise, you say you're going to take your green juice, whatever it may be, and you don't end up doing those things, all of a sudden, now that creates anxiety, now you're stressed, now you're starting to waste time because you're stressed. You're like, oh, I'm supposed to do this, I'm supposed to do this, but you're not doing any of it, and then you end up leaving the house or starting work or whatever way later than you actually intended to, and you're sitting there at your desk all stressed out, full of anxiety, when instead you could have not wasted your morning and used your morning more productively and set yourself up for success for the rest of the day. And number 5, a morning routine that has good habits and that you stick to consistently improves your mental health. Now, we already talked about why a little bit earlier. It's because it improves and increases your level of self-confidence, your level of self-esteem, your level of trust in yourself, because when you say you are going to do something, you actually end up doing it. That increases your self-trust, self-confidence, self-esteem. When you say you're going to do something and you don't do it, the opposite happens. Now, I want to share with you my 4-step morning routine that I do every single morning. And after that, I'll give you 2 bonus tips to make sure that you can stick to whatever morning routine you choose to create for yourself. Step number 1 is I wake up at 6 a.m. I do not hit snooze. I do not break promises to myself. If I say I'm going to wake up at 6, I get up at 6. Then I read for about 15 to 30 minutes, wash my face with cold water, and put on my contacts. Step number 2, around 6:30, I drink my green juice. It's primarily composed of athletic greens, which are fantastic. And then I also stretch and I meditate. Personally, I found stretching to be super helpful in the morning because I've just spent an entire night constricted, usually with cold air being blown into my body. So a lot of my muscles are constricted, and I like stretching every single morning, every single day, to make sure that my body stays healthy, well aligned, and well balanced. Then step 3 is around 7 a.m. I go for a walk out in the sunlight. There's a lot of research out there that shows that low angle sunlight, in other words, the sunlight from the morning, sends triggers to your brain to let the brain know that the day is starting. And as a result of the brain knowing that the day is starting, the brain starts to release certain neurotransmitters, certain other chemicals that help you stay on track for the rest of the day and help set your circadian rhythm. So then by the time the day is up, you know that it's time to sleep because you know when you're going to wake up. And then the next day, the same thing happens, and so on and so forth. Now, one crucial part of my morning routines is that I go on my walks with a little rascal that should be around here somewhere. This is that little rascal right here. Say hi to the people, Gigi. No? She likes to pretend like she doesn't pull on the walks, but she does because she's still a puppy. Mwah. And then once that's done, then it's time for step number 4, around 7:30 a.m., which is to have a light breakfast and take my supplements. Now, here are the 2 bonus tips that you have been waiting for, or may have been waiting for. I don't really know. I'm kind of talking to a camera right now, but hopefully you've been waiting for them and are excited about these 2 bonus tips, as excited as Gigi is. Isn't that right, Gigi? She's excited. Bonus tip number 1 is to not check your phone at all for the first, hour in the morning. Definitely don't check it first thing in the morning when you're still in bed. There's 3 reasons why checking your phone first thing in the morning is a really, really terrible way to start your day. Reason number 1 is that your focus immediately goes to other people, to other things. Instead of you taking the time to focus on yourself for the beginning of the day, you are just giving all your energy away to other people. And that sets a bad tone for the rest of the day, because it just sets the tone that you are just going to neglect yourself and just give your energy away to everything else. The second reason is that scrolling tends to send our brain, our minds, our attention, our focus in a bunch of different directions, many of which are very anxiety inducing. And so what you end up happening is that you wake up and you're kind of, you're very tired, and then you're like, well, maybe this will wake me up. But now all of a sudden your brain is just completely fragmented in a bunch of different directions, many of which are anxiety inducing. So your focus is split among a bunch of different things, and some of those things are inducing anxiety for you, and that's just not really a good way to start your day. And then the third reason is that you can start to depend on the dopamine that scrolling gives you to simply wake up. And so when you try to wake up without reaching for your phone, it feels like it's almost an impossible task because you're so used to having that drug help you wake up. So I personally don't check my phone until I go on my walk with Gigi. And when I go on that walk, I usually try to listen to a podcast of some sort so I can start the day learning something interesting. And again, if I'm learning something interesting, then hopefully it will set the tone for the day that I'm going to learn a lot more things and I'm going to have a very productive day. The second bonus tip is to wake up at the same time every single day. The reason for this, we sort of already talked about when I was talking about the low angle sunlight helping set your circadian rhythm and helping your brain realize that it's time to start the day, and helping your brain realize that it's time to start shooting off certain chemicals and neurotransmitters. Essentially, when you wake up at the same time every single day, it sets your circadian rhythm to a specific time. So your brain knows, I'm going to sleep at this time, I'm going to wake up at this time. At this time, I am going to do this, I'm going to do that. And then your brain can start the processes that it normally goes through over a 24-hour period consistently. And it's not confused as to when it's going to do what, because it's doing the same things at the same time every single day, that creates for a more stable mood, that creates for overall higher levels of happiness. It creates for more order in your life as well. So psychologically, not just chemically, it's going to help a lot. The order itself will help a lot with reducing levels of anxiety, for example. Now, one final thing that I want to say is that as much as I love my morning routine, it's important to have self-compassion. If there comes a day where you don't follow your morning routine, you don't do your morning routine, it's fine. It's not going to make or break your day. If you don't have the ability to, sometimes things happen. Sometimes you stay up late for whatever reason, and then you can't really do your morning routine, or something comes up. Things always come up. And if you don't have the ability to still have a productive day without your morning routine, if you fall apart for the rest of the day without your morning routine, that's not a good thing. So you don't want to depend on the morning routine. You don't want to fall apart if you can't do your morning routine. But having a morning routine there is, in my opinion, way better than not having the morning routine there. But you do want the flexibility of, hey, things will happen, and if things happen, how are you going to respond? That being said, if every single one of your mornings is different and there's no sort of like order as to when you're waking up or what you're doing generally in the mornings, it is going to create a lot of chaos if that's how it is every day. If every day is just chaotic and different. Granted, everybody's different, but for me personally, I have found that that does not work for me. I prefer order, and I think most minds prefer some level of order. How much order you want is up to you, but experimenting with a morning routine, I think, is definitely worth it. Now, if you enjoyed that video, I think you will really enjoy this video that I recently made about why willpower is overrated and what you can do instead that works better than willpower. And if you like this sort of content, make sure to check out my email newsletter, where you can subscribe at the link below in the description, where I send you content like this via email every single Monday to get yourself started for the week. Other than that, I'll see you soon.